All right, welcome guys, Southland Champs Club. Super excited to have you here. Today we've actually got a really special treat as we're winding down to the end of OLEAN Push. We've got the defending champion of OLEAN Push. He's been there three times. If you guys don't know Jeremy already, he started back in 2017 and he and I did try to go to OLEAN this time. We both got hard nosed, but he's going to be giving you guys the goods. Yeah, I feel that they said that Jeremy couldn't go simply because it would be unfair for this push contest for you guys. But we have him here tonight to give you guys the goods on how to really take advantage of rocking the push. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to write it down because we're going to be doing a little Q&A at the end. Without further ado, go ahead and take it away, Jeremy.
Cool. What's up? How you guys doing? If you're watching the recording, hello. I would love if you're watching the recording too. After you listen to this, I'd love for you to reach out. I'd love to hear what some of your takeaways were from this. I definitely want to have a good amount of this for Q&A towards the end as well. So I've had the opportunity to go to OLEAN 3 times, 2017, 2018, and also 2019. And I guess I'll share a little bit more about my story too, and why 2019 was my biggest OLEAN push when I took the #1 trophy. But one thing I definitely want to recognize is everyone who, of course, earned an invite to OLEAN. It's a big deal going to OLEAN. I think for a couple people on here, it's your first time going to OLEAN too, which is super fired up. One of my favorite trips, the favorite trip of every single year for sure. So I have a couple of tips. I want to show you a couple of things to show you a push schedule that JJ Morales, one of my top guy on my team, is really working for. He's approaching $10,000 in sales for his push so far already. Just a lot of energy. The first thing that I want to talk about that led me to just have a lot of motivation and passion to work so hard for the 2019 push and take away this really awesome Cleaver trophy was something that we've always done in the South Coast division, is getting really clear in our reasons why. So I'll share you mine for the actual same push. So when I was about to hop on here, I pulled up my 25 whys for that 2019 OLEAN push period. So even though we're coming towards the end of the push, we got about 4 full days, if I'm not wrong. I think if you have not done your list of 25 whys, I think now is a really good opportunity for you to do that, to add some additional fuel to the fire to finish really strong. And I'll tell you my story about my push as well. But a couple things that I had down here is like I had an income goal that I wanted to have. I go DM because I wanted to be a district manager. I wanted to lead the pilot. This was before I was the division office manager. I wanted to force Evan, for lack of a better term, to make me the Dom. I think it's also important if you add and include an income portion of your push, like a motivation for you. I think it's good for you to also have an idea of what you want to do with the actual income. What are you going to do with savings? How much are you going to put in your withholdings? Can you have 2 10K pushes in this year? Just a couple of reasons. 25 reasons I think is great, because as you're going through push, the goal of push is to work so hard to where you're exhausted. So hard. So if you end up losing some motivation, you have another 24 reasons that you can really pull from. So that's just one thing I think is really important going into the last quarter of push, is getting really clear on the reasons why you want to work hard for sure. One thing that really worked for me when I was going through my push is I printed those out, my 25 whys, and also put them all over the place. I wrote them all over my mirror. I taped one to the steering wheel of my car when I was driving around all my appointments pre-COVID, put them in all the cabinets in my living room, in my room, just so I can always just be focused and be reminded of how important it is to push really hard. Because if you're pushing the right way, you definitely do get tired. And those who do finish strong have an opportunity to really make a name for themselves, of course, in the region, but in your specific office to position yourself for position of choice long term. Next thing I want to talk about here is committing to what your daily action steps are. So I'm going to share a couple of things. I'm going to share my screen. Let me go to JJ Morales here. Here we go. Share my screen here. So if you don't know, JJ Morales is one of my assistant managers in the South San Diego powerhouse. He is over $100,000 for the year. He just hit his $150,000 promotion, making 50%. Now, if I were to scroll up in our group chat, I think it's really important to get clear on what your minimum daily action steps have to be. So when I sat down and had my push conversation with JJ, essentially broke down his $10,000 goal into how many phone calls he needs to make per day. And one thing I think is so profound is how simple that really is. Because when you create a big push for yourself, it can be really scary, very very daunting having such a big number that you want to go for. But if you break it down just a simple action step and constantly reminding yourself how you're supposed to do that, I think that's really important. So this was before push, in the middle of the month, this month. I'll scroll down to what JJ sent me yesterday or this past weekend. So JJ sent me his clock out. I have JJ sending his clock outs to me every single day. And essentially how many phone calls did he make? What Facebook posts does he have? How many demos did he get booked? How many demos did he have ahead of him? Orders placed, demos done, total, how much CPO did he create in his total and how close he is to his goal. I've been doing this for JJ because I did this for myself during my push. At the end of every single day, just kind of take account of where you're actually at, because it's easy to make all these really long-term, like really huge goals. But if you're not actually doing daily action, I think that's important. So after I sent this to JJ, because you see there's a little bit of a difference here, 18 phone calls and his commitment was 27. JJ is well on pace for over $10,000. And then he got right back on pace today or yesterday, making 33 phone calls, coming out of the deficit from the other day. And he has some appointments ahead of him. Today's his anniversary with his wife. But $8,200 and he's on pace for that. So I think it's really important just to get clear on what your minimum daily acceptable actions are. And as a rep, it's very simple because just making phone calls and sitting in front of customers. I had a conversation with one of the reps on my team too, that's talking about getting involved with service calls and demos and getting on the events team and almost getting overwhelmed with adding those different layers of the business for him. And I think it's really simple to, how often are you spending time in front of your customers? Like how often are your customers actually exposed to you, whether or not you're sitting behind a booth or you're doing a demo or a service call or you're getting posted on Facebook. You just want your customers to know all about it. One thing I would also encourage you to consider during your contest is how much are you utilizing social media and Facebook? I think of Holly McMahon. I was doing my demo for Holly McMahon during OLEAN push in 2019. I did a service call for her and she just bought a couple of pieces, but she posted me on Facebook. I got over like 20 comments, a bunch of likes and a bunch of interactions. And I created about $2,000 from one Facebook post in the very last quarter of push. Remember my last day of the push contest, I was $1,300 away from hitting my goal. And it was my very last demo. I had her post me on Facebook and she also placed an order for just a little bit over $1,300 in sales. So hit it right at the buzzer. So looking at your schedule, what I would encourage all of you to do is get clear on how many demo slots you have available and how many phone call slots you have in your schedule as well. So I'm going to pull up another thing that JJ just sent me for his actual schedule for what he's got going on right now. So I'll show you this. Hopefully this is good enough. Hopefully, can you guys read this? Hopefully this is big enough and you can actually see it. I can zoom in this way too. So if you look at JJ's schedule, he has all of his dollar signs or appointment slots in his schedule before he goes to OLEAN. So if you look here, he has all the dollar slots and he's changing the color for when he actually has the appointments filled up as well. So getting clear on what your schedule looks like. Today is actually a perfect time to be having this conversation because having your power hour and sitting down and creating your schedule for the week is a really simple thing that you can do that can have a really big impact, because it's easy when you're kind of throwing it all at the wall and doing a bunch of demos and just working really hard, where it's easy to lose the intentionality of actually creating the appointments intentionally, if that makes sense. So what I would encourage all of you to do before the night is over, if you already haven't made your schedule, is to have your power hour with yourself. Look into the future and see if there's going to be any momentum breakers for you. Okay, any momentum breakers. So as I had this conversation with JJ when we were creating his push contest. So for example, today is JJ's anniversary with his wife. So no work is getting done for JJ. Totally unplug and just be present with his wife today. It was all intentional because he was able to work harder on the front end and around his anniversary, where it's almost like he doesn't feel guilty for not working on the day, if that makes sense. But it's all got to be created by intention. Just take one step back to take 10, 15 plus steps forward in regards to your appointments that you can get booked up. Does that make sense? Y'all track with me here? I know I kind of talk fast. So setting that schedule tonight, I think will be really, really important. Another thing I want to do is, I'm just kind of curious, if you could message me in the chat box for those that are doing appointments and all that for your push. How many demos have you done for push so far? How many demos? And also I would encourage you as well for those that are watching the recording, go through and just take a note of how many appointments you've done. Or you can even just write it down on a piece of paper instead of putting it in the chat box. But every single customer that you have done an appointment with for push, I'm going to give you something that you can use to pretty much duplicate those customers again with something called the if I need it list, where you can call back some customers and say, hey, remember that appointment that I was doing and the goal that I'm working really so hard for, this big contest for OLEAN? Well, it's kind of coming down to the wire, and I'll give you the script. I'll give you everything that you can do. This is something that JJ also did when he had a $15,000 push in the beginning of the year. Was he called back all the customers that he did and saw for push and created $3,000 in orders towards the very end to pass $15,000 for that specific push at the very beginning of the year. I think it was KOC push. But I'm going to share that here in your in the Zoom chat, and we can also dish this out to share. Let me copy this link. Copy link. Okay, cool. And I'll walk through this too with you guys. You should be able to click on that. I think you should have access to that too. If anyone wants to verify, that'd be awesome. But you should be able to open that. You can make a copy, whatever it is. If you're a DM, send this out to your team for sure. This is something that's really easy to implement too. So this is something that Brittany Livingston, a former CSP in San Diego, taught to us, and this is where I got this from. So this is something that you want to do at the very end of push. We have 4 full days of push, and you want to go until the buzzer is done, until you cannot go anymore. And this should definitely be something that is included in your power hour, something that you actually put in your schedule. So writing down all the customers, calling them all back the day before the push is over, and calling them. Say, hey, what's up? Is this Mrs. Jones? Hey, what's up, Mrs. Jones? This is Jeremy. This is your Cutco guy. How are you doing? And you're just calling, and the first thing you're going to do is just express gratitude for them. Hey, I just wanted to call you and thank you for your time and your support. It really has meant the world to me. And guess what, Day? Guess what? Do you remember that big contest I told you I was in? Well, I'm super excited right now because the event is ending at the end of today. And I am super close to hitting my goal. So what I'm doing is I'm calling all the people that I've seen these past 2 weeks. And I did the math. And if everyone gets 1 or 2 things, I will surpass my goal. Isn't that awesome? Like, yeah, that's awesome. Great for you. So I know you really like the X, Y, and Z. I know when I was sitting down with you and your husband that you guys were looking at this, and this for a gift. And if you wanted to just get that, here's what that looks like. It helped me out a ton. But just so you know, if you want to get everything on your wish list, I can save you an extra blank. So did you just want to do this one, or would you be open for me telling you about the better deal? So obviously there's a little bit of a caveat here. And of course, reading over the script before you actually do it is really important. But you want to go into that phone call with a lot of intention. So go back, review your notes from that appointment. And if you're not taking notes on your appointments, I would definitely recommend doing that. If you're managing your calendar and your schedule all virtually on your Google Calendar, that's a really easy thing for you to do, is put notes on everything that they're looking at, because your Google Calendar will never get rid of previous events unless you have that setting on for some reason. But being able to go back and look at what they're looking at, their family, their recommendations, gifts, Christmas gifts, all that stuff, so that you can make the most out of that phone call. Write out a couple of deals and you offer them to the yes or the yes question. Here's this deal, or do you want to hear about the better deal? I did this for OLEAN Push, and I forgot her name. It's going to kill me. But she didn't get anything when I did the demo for her and her husband. It was a service call. They didn't get anything, but they were looking at cookware. When I called them back, she bought 2 or 3 pans, had a few hundred CPO to that day as we were getting closer to it. So depending on how many appointments you've had, you can do this all in one day, or you can do this leading up to a couple of days. Even having a graphic or something would be a great idea that you can put on Facebook and have all of your family share you on Facebook. So having a knifeometer or thermometer and filling it up for how close you are to your goal, and sending that to every single person on in your family, and just ask them to post it on Facebook and say, hey, who can help out Brad? Who can help out Ryan finishing strong towards the contest? And you'll be so surprised at how many people will like and comment on it. And the more that you play around with the algorithm, the more that you like the comments, the more that you respond to them, it actually drives more traffic to that Facebook post too. So when you have your mom post it, have your mom, your grandma, your auntie all like, comment, and share it, because more people are going to see that. And then that's more ammunition, for lack of a better term, for you to go out there and actually see what sticks. It doesn't have to be perfect either. Make something, just put some effort into it and show people that you're really working towards the end. And don't underestimate how willing people are to help someone who's working really hard towards their goals, for sure. So that's one thing I definitely would recommend doing is is the if I need it list is like a non-negotiable. I'm also going to send this to you here, and I would encourage you to finish strong. In my opinion, comes with having a lot of intention and reflecting on what is actually getting done versus activity versus what's actually getting accomplished on the day is something really important to consider. So this is what I have my team filling out for people that want to go hard for push. I sent it there in the Zoom chat. I encourage you do that, reflecting at the end of your day too. How many phone calls did you make, posts, demos ahead, demos done, orders placed, all the stats that are important to move the needle for your CPO, because it's easy to feel like you're doing a lot of things until you actually like it's the difference of what you feel versus what's real. So I think that's good for you to take a moment every single night to like have that reset and set the day with intention. Because if you didn't make the phone call target that you set for yourself and you see that before you go to bed, then you wake up with a fire saying, okay, cool, I got to make up from the deficit of yesterday. Does that make sense? So I think that's really important for all of you to consider, especially those of you that are going to be watching this recording too. Because the fourth quarter is where most of the CPO come from. So I'll tell you my OLEAN story, my push, how it actually broke down for me. And then I'll open it up to Q&A. So I can actually go grab my calendar of when I'm doing Q&A. But when I started my push goal, I still have my same planner. I was using Passion Planner, a paper planner. And the goal typically for any push is to front load your demos. You probably heard your managers tell you this too. It's like you want to start making phone calls before push actually comes, because when the start line comes, you want to have 10, 15 plus demos ahead of you if you can. For me, I totally dropped the ball on that. I wanted to make 200 phone calls, 100 and 100, 2 all-day call days. And I made 0 phone calls. I made 0 phone calls. So my first weekend of push for OLEAN, it was like very small amount of CPO. Only had a couple of orders. But if you look at how my push finished, like 80% of my CPO came from like the last quarter of my push. So no matter where you're at for push, do not forget that there's so much CPO on the board if you allow yourself to track that CPO with Facebook, reaching out to family, looking at what's actually getting done with the daily activities and focusing on the effort that you're putting in, and just allow that good stuff to happen. So regardless of where you're at for push, don't give up, just finish really strong, and you can hit it at the buzzer just like I did. Because, it was nothing like my OLEAN push was nothing crazy special. I could have done more if I set myself up the right way, but I just finished all the way through and I shared my goal out loud and people wanted to help. And then the rest is history, as I say. And it was a really great opportunity. And, finishing strong was definitely worth it. So I'd encourage you guys to do the same thing for sure. So that's all I had. Nothing too crazy. But hopefully that's some stuff that you can implement right away with the action steps of having the if I need it list, but definitely for the clock out for yourself, I think is good for you to reflect. And as we have Q&A, I actually really want to go show you my calendar too. So I'm going to go find it.
Hey, it seems like the big secret to having a strong push period is to actually push.
Pretty much.
Holy smokes.
How crazy is that, right?
Like you really like set a real goal and commit to it and really do the effort every day. Oh my God.
And the funny thing about that too is like, because I started in 2017, and I've been through like a pretty decent amount of pushes, and like took me a while to realize that too. It's like, just keep it simple, just actually follow through on what you say you're going to do. And then awesome things happen when you actually do the things that you say you're going to do. So I want to show you guys my schedule, but if there's any questions, I'm open.
Jeremy, what's your lifetime CPO at?
Like my true career sales, my personal sales, I think I'm like 140 grand for personal sales, and my career sales, I think I'm over like 400 grand, not including my years being done.
How long did it take you to get to 100?
Maybe that's a good question. Because I've never sold. I've never only sold Cutco because I was going to school, and then I was an AM and then sales manager, and I was always like heavier on the management side of it. I think it took me a couple years, 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
3 years sounds right. By 2020, like 2019. Yeah, when I was a sales manager, so 2019. Mm-hmm.
What was your biggest challenge in getting to that point?
To the 100 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That stands out above most is just being patient with it, just doing the right thing, give yourself some grace, and really run your own race. It's easy to compare yourself to a lot of people for sure. But if you know that you're doing the right activities, naturally the results are going to come, right? And surround yourself with people that also want to do well. You know, like your district manager, your division manager, people in the leadership academy. Just spend time with people that want to try and work really hard and do it. Just surround yourself with them, and eventually you'll get there. You know, it's crazy. It's even when I say that. So I've been here for 5 years now, and me even saying that out loud is crazy for me to say. Like that I've been here for 5 years, because time flies really fast. Yeah, I would say just be patient with yourself and just commit to the process and focus on the effort over the results. That'd be a big one.
Did you have a mentor through this whole process?
My division manager.
Okay.
Yeah, Evan Keller. Yeah, Evan's like a dad to me. So for sure. So Evan is a big mentor. Like my district managers when I was coming up in the business too, was huge.
I think, Jeremy, what people don't necessarily recognize is how much fun it is to set up a plan and then actually do it. You know,
It's true.
when you actually do it, because it was my first summers when I learned how to push. You know, I went to my first meeting and I didn't push. I didn't know what it was. And then I saw the countdown. I'm like, holy crap, this is going to be awesome next time this thing rolls around. And, and actually push and, placed, never won number one, but, always placed in the trophy, in the money for all the pushes, every push I ever had as a rep, until I became a manager. It just benefits your soul so much to do it. It's about the message that you send to yourself about who am I as a human being, and what can I accomplish in my life. That's why we have pushes, and when people really take advantage of them, it's a secret sauce of life success.
Yeah, I agree too. And like when I was going through like my OLEAN pushes, like right before I hopped on here, I think this kind of ties into what you were saying too just now. Was the one I remember this one too. Like this was the one that stood out the most, was just why not? Like why not just go for it? I think also like another answer to your question, Norma, is just being reckless with it. Just why not just go all out for something? Like it's really not that serious. And I think we make it out to be such a big thing. But it's like, when was the last time that you fully like gutted out full effort for just one thing? I don't know if I spoke on this when I got my DM promotion at promotions night, when I was just kind of sharing my story. So 2018 to 2019 for me were radically different, because after 2018, after I ran my branch, my branch was really challenging for me. Naturally, being a branch manager is hard. And it was hard. Like I didn't know if I wanted to do management. I didn't know if I wanted to stay with Vector. I didn't know if I wanted to just go sell. It was hard. It was really challenging for me. And I was learning how to navigate the challenge. And then I got invited to go to OLEAN 2018 after my branch. And I had a conversation with Jim Stitt, Jr., he's the owner of Cutco. And I was having that conversation with him at dinner. By the way, for those of you that are going to OLEAN, when you go to the old library and you have dinner, be intentional with who you sit at the table with, because there's going to be round tables, if it's round tables, but at each table, there's going to be an executive from Cutco corporate sitting there, and like, go sit next to the owner. Like go sit next to Jim Stitt Jr. So the first year I did it on accident. Second year, I was like, okay, now I got to go talk to him again. And then the third year I went to go talk to him again. So I remember this 2018, I was stressing out, dude. Like I was really stressing out 2018. And I remember talking to him, and I wanted to ask him some questions, and my questions like really quickly turned into ranting. I was like, I don't know how well I'm doing. I want to be like Anthony Hayes and Kuval Patel, like, and just comparing myself. And I was ranting to the owner of Cutco, and he ended up like stopping. This is like one of the most transformative conversations I ever had. And he stopped me in the middle of my conversation, and he was like, whoa, like stop. Like, relax, you're doing it. And that right there, like the relax you're doing, that gave me a lot of confidence in me knowing that I was in the right spot. And I left OLEAN that year. Like I am like full sending all of 2019. Like, who cares? I'm going to work my ass off and just see what happens. And I was like rock bottom. Normally, I was not doing so hot. Like I wasn't feeling good. And in 2019, I came back and I won push, and like that lesson for me, like that transition from 2018 to 2019, like my biggest breakthrough there was just the power of a year, just if you just commit to 1 year, you just commit to one thing, you'll surprise yourself, and allow yourself to surprise yourself too. You know, you got to give yourself permission to just be reckless and just go for it. You know, so it really ain't that serious at the end of the day. We're just selling knives here. So I say you just go for it for sure.